The sea, vast and mysterious, has always held a sense of danger for sailors and explorers. But what if there's more truth to those old tales of sea monsters than we'd like to admit? Join us as we uncover eyewitness accounts of encounters with creatures that seem ripped from the darkest depths of the ocean and of human imagination. Are they simply misidentifications, or is there something truly monstrous lurking below the waves, waiting to drag the unsuspecting into oblivion?
First up, we have the Australia sighting. A video that was uploaded in 2010 has recently resurfaced that was taken at the Great Barrier Reef. The footage shows a mysterious creature, a mermaid, swimming in the distance. Now the video has more than 2.7 million views, and there's another video as well from the same person which has more than 4 million views. The narrator of the video explains how he went to the Great Barrier Reef in Australia to test an underwater cage that he had recently bought. Two films were recorded, explains the narrator. He said he was testing out his camera and how to operate it, and he felt something behind him. He added that he only spotted the mermaid after he watched the footage on the computer. He never saw her in real life. Now he claims that the video is real, not edited, not faked. Some people are claiming it's just a human in a costume, but I don't know. It looks pretty real to me. Up next, we have the Canada sighting. In June 1967, a mermaid was spotted on Main Island. She was seen in the early evening by passengers on ferries close to the west entrance to Active Pass. The Daily Colonist reported the sightings and included a photograph. Several witnesses said the mermaid had a large fish, apparently coho salmon, and one swore she had taken a bite out of it, the Colonist said on June 13th, 1967. Long silver blonde hair and topless condition were generally agreed upon. Now the next day, the Colonist referred to her as the dimpled mermaid and said that she had the lower body of a fish or porpoise. The newspaper said she had been at Helen Point and had been seen eating a large salmon. A Cobble Hill man who flew over the area shortly after 7 p.m. managed to get an aerial photograph which reportedly corresponded closely to another photo taken. Then on June 15th, the newspaper reported that a $25,000 reward would be offered for the dimpled mermaid of Active Pass. The offer was made by Charles White of the Undersea Gardens, who added that a panel of competent marine biologists would have to confirm that the mermaid was the real thing. He also promised to negotiate a contract with the mermaid. I think we could come to terms. We would offer a substantial salary, room and board, and a supply of those special combs that mermaids use, he said. Now unfortunately, no mermaid came forward, and the story kind of just disappeared. Moving on to the Jamaica sighting. Jamaica seems to be a hotspot for mermaid sightings. I mean, there are hundreds of them. From YouTube to TikTok to Reddit, people have been sharing their stories. Now, this particular video was taken at Flatbridge, where there have always been rumors of sightings. Now in the video, you can hear people saying it's a mermaid. Watch, a mermaid, Jesus. Oh, she's gone, a woman says. Now Daniel Gale, who has been diving and fishing in the area for the last 10 years, says the river has a season when the mermaid wants blood, and that's when a series of accidents usually occur. Whenever the river changes its color and gets dirty like now, that's when it's dangerous, and that's usually when the mermaid is active, Daniel told the Star. It's said that the only thing that will quiet the mermaid is blood, so as soon as it's satisfied, all accidents will cease. Now it seems like this mermaid is no Little Mermaid type and is more evil than people thought. Now we have caught in a net. Fishermen are pretty brave. They sail in stormy weather, they've seen all different types of animals, nothing can really scare them. Well, that is unless they stumble upon a mermaid. In a viral video, it appears that some fishermen caught a mermaid in a net. Now they didn't need to do this, they were just trying to see what fish they caught, and boom, a clearly humanoid arm with a webbed hand reached back at them from the net as if it was trying to grab the men. Now the men leaned back to avoid it, and unfortunately the net slipped and fell back into the ocean. They then scrambled to lean over the side of the ship to see if they could catch another glimpse of the creature, but they couldn't, and whatever they saw got away, never to be seen again. Now let's talk about the Spain sightings. While it's rare to even see a mermaid, spotting a mermaid in the same place twice is even more rare. But it seems like Spain is the place for this to happen. Travelers on a cruise noticed a figure sitting on a distant rock rock deep within the ocean. Upon closer observation, it became clear that this figure was a mermaid, sunbathing and relaxing. They recorded the video in Morocco, Spain. Then this other video was taken by two friends who were surfing together. They were just recording each other and having fun, but it seems like they actually caught a mermaid on film too. You can see its tail coming out of the water and going back in. Now, as they both spot the creature in the water, you can tell that they're scared and they decide to leave, which was probably the best option because they would not want to get dragged underwater by that thing. Now, the most recent sighting is the 2023 sighting. In this extremely viral TikTok clip, seafarer who goes by the username @sauce.90 on social media, his real name being Ryan Coleman, filmed two mysterious figures swimming by his boat as it traveled through the choppy waves. Now, as he records, his voice can be heard saying, "What are those? What's going on?" Pointing the camera at the sea, he notes, "Something swimming fast underneath the water, something swimming real fast." Now, everyone in the comments believes it's mermaids that are keeping up with his ship. Now, a strange wailing can be heard in the background as he asks the camera, "What the F is that noise, bro? What is that noise?" Then, as he continues to remark that he can hear the strange intruders, a shrieking voice announces, "Jump for me." Now, just hearing it creeps me out. Just listen. Now, how he was able to stay calm after hearing that is beyond me. Now onto the Israel sighting. In 2009, dozens of locals near Kiryat Yam, Israel claimed to see a mermaid off the shore at sunset. Now, these sightings went on for some time before the local media got involved. The onlookers said the creature resembled a young girl and would often visit the beach and do tricks in the water. Eventually, the Israeli government noticed all the attention and issued a $1 million reward for anyone who could provide proof of the mermaid. Now, this didn't include capturing, it simply required an authentic photo. Now, no one ever came forward, but in 2013, the most compelling piece of evidence to date was a video shot by two tourists. Now, the pair thought they had spotted a seal on a rock just off the coast, but as the camera zoomed in, it became clear it wasn't a seal. It was a mermaid. Now, despite the evidence looking real, the prize money has not yet been handed out, but hey, that footage looks real to me. Give those people their money, it's only fair. Let's discuss the Zimbabwe sighting. Mermaids don't really like being around humans, and I can't say that I blame them. Now, this was made extremely clear in the case of the Zimbabwe dam workers in 2012, who were trying to install a water pump which was crucial to the local agriculture. Now, local divers and workers were hired to see what was blocking the pump, and when they surfaced, they vowed to never return. Why? Because there was a mermaid there. Sam Sipia Nkoma, a water resource minister, told the Senate committee that the village chiefs could perform an ancient ritual to get rid of the mermaid and calm the workers' anxiety, but they still refused to return after the ritual was performed. Now, being skeptical of the workers' reasons for quitting, the government hired outside help as they thought this belief was cultural, but the new workers reported the same thing and refused to finish the repairs. Now, to this day, the dam is still not finished. And hey, I wouldn't mess with a mermaid either. I think it's best that they left it alone. Next up, we have the Hawaii sighting. The island of Hawaii has plenty of folklore and legends around beautiful aquatic creatures, and the mermaid is one of them. For more than 50 years, people have reported seeing a mermaid off the coast of Hawaii's Big Island. But the sightings were never taken seriously until a dive boat captain finally captured the half-woman, half-fish on camera. Dive master Jeff Liker photographed the creature known as the Kauai Point Mermaid on April 12, 1998, as he and 6 other divers were exploring the ocean bottom about 20 minutes off Hawaii's sunny Kona coast. As Jeff was photographing some underwater life, a mermaid brushed up against him while swimming and turned back around just in time for him to snap a few pictures. He said, "I feel very lucky that I'm the one to finally prove to the world what people here have known for half a century. The Kauai Point Mermaid is real." Now, this wasn't the only time he spotted the mermaid, as just a few hours before, he saw what looked like a nude woman swimming with a pod of dolphins. The woman was able to keep up the pace with the dolphins, which Jeff thought was odd. All of a sudden, she jumped into the air and he realized that she had the lower half of a fish. Now, 10 people on a boat witnessed this incident, but the mermaid disappeared after just 2 jumps out of the water. And lastly, we have the Minnesota sighting. A mysterious video claims to show the moment a mermaid was pulled from the water, prompting claims the mythical creatures do exist. The clip shows a green tail floating in the water and a figure being put onto a stretcher. The video was taken by an Australian tourist on a beach in Minnesota, but the precise location is unknown. According to Paranormal Elite, a YouTube channel which was sent the footage, the person who filmed it stayed behind after the beach was cleared. The man, identified only as Mackie, said large vehicles arrived with some people wearing yellow hazmat suits to protect them from dangerous materials. A Paranormal Elite spokesman said, the creature seen bears striking resemblance to the mermaids depicted in fictional stories. There remains a mystery whether or not mermaids do inhabit lakes in Minnesota. After all, what happens when the lake freezes in the winter? The enthusiast continued, I urge everyone to keep an open mind and come to a conclusion yourself. If this is in fact fake, the question arises as to why anyone would go to such lengths to hoax a video like this. Now, I honestly don't know if this is real or not, it truly just stumps me.
Captain John Smith. Another sea captain, another claim. Who is it this time? Not the great Captain John Smith, famous for settling Jamestown. He didn't see a mermaid in 1614, did he? He did? I knew it, I always knew it. The same captain famous for his relationship with Pocahontas almost got into an entanglement with some mermaids, it seems. He spotted a mermaid off the coast of Newfoundland apparently, and he couldn't keep his eyes off of her. He noted her long green hair imparted to her an original character that was by no means unattractive. That's what he says. You ever get caught checking out another girl? Try that line. But babe, I was imparted by her long green by no means unattractive hair. You know how it is. Look at it. I'm only human. Smith noted her large eyes as well. Again, big eyes coming back in. Fine nose, well-formed ears, slight roast there. But once he realized her bottom half was a little fishy, he bolted. He saw the green hair and he's like, nice. Then he saw the fins and he's like, okay, I'm actually all set, see ya. Number 9, Hawaii. Heading over to Kauai Point, Hawaii. I've never visited, but I've always wanted to go. And now apparently they have mermaids, so I'm booking a flight. Reports came in around 1998 from Jeff Leacher. Jeff is a diver who runs the Jack's diving locker on the point, and he says, and I quote, I feel very lucky that I'm the one to finally prove to the world what people here have known for half a century. The Kauai Point mermaid is real. You heard it here on Most Amazing Top 10, folks. Mermaids equals real. We got it. He was diving one day and he heard a group of people in a nearby boat screaming around, so he obviously looked to see if everyone was okay. He popped his head up, looked over, and saw a mermaid splashing around in the water. She had jumped in the air and she was doing flips, and it's at that point when he realized she was a half fish. I mean, obviously, or else just a really athletic chick just jumping out of the water just with raw strength. He actually claims to have gotten a photo of the mermaid as it was passing above him in the ocean. Check it out. Little too good to be true? Yeah, maybe, I don't know, it's a number 9 for sure. What do we think? Comment down below. Number 8, Zimbabwe. The world did not end in 2012, thankfully, but it certainly got a little weird for those in Zimbabwe. Back in 2012, contractors were working on a dam, but they got interrupted one day when a mermaid just appeared out of nowhere, just showed up, and I was like, hi, stop. Thanks. Living in Canada, I'd be more afraid of beavers when it comes to dams, but mermaids, I guess those are scary too. This mermaid appeared and the workers were so afraid, they were so shook that they refused to even finish the project. Even after rituals were performed on the water, the workers were still like, nope, I'm all set. Thanks. They had to fly in a whole new batch of workers just to get it going again, but they too also saw this mermaid. And they too also refused to finish the project. Delay after delay. Do you think it was a mermaid, or is something else really going on here? If I was being paid unfairly, I would probably lie about a mermaid as well to refuse work, yeah. Try that at your next job. Just say you saw a mermaid at booth 11, so now you gotta sign out. Just a fish sitting in a booth like, hi, what's a special? Number 7, Kai Islands. Back in 1943, Japanese soldiers were posted up on the Kai Islands in Indonesia. They claimed to have run into a mermaid numerous times, just like the Zimbabwe Dam. It's like it's their territory, almost. Which makes sense why they would be upset about a new dam, right? That's a mermaid highway you're trying to close, brother. Stop. On the Kai Islands, there were multiple encounters with multiple mermaids. The villagers referred to these creatures as orang ikan. Orang translates to human and ikan to fish. Human fish. While on patrol, Sergeant Taro Horiba had instructed the village chief to pass on any and all information if anybody sees one of these fish things, right? Well, somebody saw one, captured it, and Sergeant Hariba recalls the mermaid as being around 5 feet tall, skin was pinkish, and its face was human, but it had spikes around their head. And its mouth was that of a fish's mouth. So yeah, pretty hard to forget, I'd say. This was 1943, so the scientific community wasn't exactly sold off of this, so nothing ever came to be from this. But I weirdly believe this one. I don't know, a carp mouth is more believable than silvery blonde hair, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Number 6, Christopher Columbus. On his first trip overseas in 1493, Christopher Columbus claims to have seen not one, not two, but 3 mermaids. He even wrote about it. He said they rose well out of the sea, but they are not so beautiful they are said to be, for their faces had some masculine traits. Awesome. He's like, yeah, they're actually not that attractive because they look like guys. I'm like, awesome, thanks Chris. Maybe you should keep your eyes on where you're heading rather than trying to spot mermaids. I don't know. Just a little advice from the future. Historians believe Columbus may have gotten confused, classic Columbus, and he saw manatees instead of mermaids. Their skin is also pink and fleshy, so that's a fair mix-up, I guess. Maybe that's what everybody has been seeing this whole time. Still, I want to believe. Don't you? Let's move on. Number 5, ancient Romans. Oh, we're going way back for this one. Interesting, okay. The 1st century ancient Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder, he wrote a book, we've mentioned it on here a few times now, it's called Natural History, and this is like the holy grail of ancient history, okay, of ancient knowledge. In it, the Elder wrote about mermaids, oddly enough, these half-human, half-fish creatures that Pliny called nereids. The Elder added to his observation detailing that even the human parts of the body were covered in rough scales. The Elder also recalled seeing a seaman who would climb ships at night and eventually sink the ships, like overnight. Some Assassin's Creed mermaids? That's a DLC I'd buy, hands down. Number 4, Jenny Hannovers. Back in the 1500s, numerous mermaids were appearing in Antwerp. They had appeared so often that sailors had a nickname for them now. They were called Jenny Hannovers. Now, not only did they approach tourists, which, terrifying, but they were also all business as well. They were all businessmen with fish bottoms, just trying to sell you things. Yeah, they would sell objects to tourists. Imagine hanging out by the sea, relaxing one day, and then a manfish approaches you trying to sell you a cigar. I'm like, can you go back? Where did you even come from? Also, you smell like fish. They were also referred to as devilfish, and perhaps they were the enemy of Christ. One of those two things, so you really don't know what to expect when a mermaid approaches you, so just a heads up, be careful. They might try and sell you something, or they might try and get you to sell you their soul. I just like doing that. I'll do mermaid lists all day if I can just do it like this. It's more of a snake, but you know, I'm trying my best. Number 3, oh Canada. Being a Canadian, we have to include a Canadian sighting of a mermaid. Of course, I missed this one. I wasn't born just quite yet. This was reported back in 1967 in British Columbia. When a group of tourists were on a ferry, they apparently saw a fish person. A mermaid. They all thought they saw a legit mermaid because of their silvery blonde hair. Was she splashing around in the shallow water? Was she doing backflips as she jumped over the waves? Nope, she was just sitting there enjoying lunch. The tourists all report this mermaid sitting down eating a salmon while the waves crashed over her tail. That's like a deleted scene from Little Mermaid. The city was jazzed about this, I guess. They put out a reward for $25,000 for this mermaid in hopes that it was a hoax or somebody would turn up, but sadly nothing happened. Number 2, Wales. I mean Wales as the place, not Wales like, this is all mermaid talk here, okay? In 1603, off the coast of Wales, numerous reports were flooding in about a sea creature, humanoid fish monster. Nice and calm report there. This time it wasn't a sailor. It wasn't a dehydrated, confused guy behind the wheel of a boat. It was near Pendine, and it was a farmer named Thomas Reynold. He first saw it nearby on the shores, and then like a normal dude, he called others over to witness it as well. Cause yeah, back then you can't take a photo that's not even close yet. So he's like, hey, look at this. Oh my God. And then people ran over. They all stood by and watched this thing for around 3 hours. All the accounts were collected, and since it was, again, 1603, some dude had to draw out what they were talking about. Sounds exhausting. And this was the closest they could all get. I mean, that's believable and all, but I really hope this was a mermaid, or else maybe a bunch of dudes just gathered around and watched some fish mate. Or they watched someone drown for 3 hours. I don't know. Go check it out. It looks like a person, I know, right? Like, bro, go help, what? And finally, number 1, sirens. Ben Stiller may think he's a glamorous merman, but in the 13th century Norwegian manuscript, these fish-human hybrids were described accurately. They were described as terrifying. I'm fairly positive that if mermaids were real right now, they're not like Ariel at this point. It's kind of hard to sing under the sea when a plastic bag wraps around your face, you know, mid-chorus. These mermaids were referred to as sirens, monsters, described as tall and great of size, shoulders like a man, but no hands, like one of these. aka fish person. Whenever the monster would appear, historically, doom was meant to follow. It was a bad omen. Obviously. Kind of like the Goblet of Fire, those mermaids. Those mermaids were a mess. Oh my god, what a horrible school that was. Terrifying. When the 18th century rolled in, Europeans in the Dutch Indies discovered plants and creatures that had never been seen prior. So, naturally, they would document these new discoveries in detail. And in 1718, a painter named Samuel Fallers claimed to have discovered and caught a siren, a mermaid. He brought her into his home, apparently, and drew this on the spot, and after day 4 of living in a container of water, the mermaid died. She purposely didn't eat and she starved herself to death. She refused to eat in this container. What a ride or die. Again, this was 1718, so part of me thinks maybe this happened. I don't know, why lie? I mean, we make up stories and movies and all that jazz now, but you know, James Cameron makes billions of dollars for it. Back then, there's no reason. It's like, hey, look at this painting. And they're like, cool. There's no reason to lie. Also, the fact that it's accurate to other sightings around the world in different centuries, it's a tad convincing. What do we think, folks?
Ariel is a schizo. I came across a convincing Reddit theory regarding Ariel the Little Mermaid posted in the Disney subreddit. So the theory was posted by 7th LTR, who said Ariel is a schizophrenic. They claim that the voices in her head are Flounder and Sebastian. They tell her that the world is better inside her head, aka under the sea. She longs to be normal or part of this world. Her father, Triton, is overprotective of her because of her schizophrenia. Ursula is really Ariel's doctor. She gives Ariel medicine to stop the voices in her head. She gives her legs. But because she has been living in her own world, she doesn't know how to communicate with normal people, aka she can't talk in the movie. Eric is really a nurse that she becomes obsessed with. Eric develops the idea that Ursula is trying to steal Eric from her when Ursula transforms her into a beautiful woman and tries to lure Eric away from Ariel. Therefore, she stops taking her medication and goes back into her own world, aka back into the ocean. Eric then tries to convince her otherwise, tries to convince her to come back out into the real world, so she begins treatment again and learns how to live with the help of Eric. In the movie, Ariel gets her legs, gets her voice, and marries Eric and lives happily ever after. I'm honestly kind of with you as long as you're not suggesting that if Eric's her nurse they really got married, because I feel like there are oaths you have to take about that kind of thing. But yeah, it works. Maybe under the sea is the bowels of Ariel's crazy mind. So we know Disney loves a good crossover, but this crossover theory is pretty dark. Coming into number 9, we have the Captain Hook theory. Hook! He's a nasty man of the ocean. He's a pirate who doesn't think twice about murdering the innocent. Is he the man who broke Ariel's home? Maybe. So this theory is twofold. A red-haired mermaid is spotted hanging out with the other mermaids in the lagoon in Peter Pan. See here. The mermaid on the left who takes a dip looks a lot like Ariel. We get a closer look when the girls splash Wendy. Have a look.
Oh, please, I'm not dressed. But you're fine. No, please. Too good for us, eh?
The mermaid on the left has Ariel's hair. Just imagine that coupled with Trident's eyes. In The Little Mermaid, Ariel's beginning, we learned that her mother was called Athena and was actually killed by pirates. Classic Disney bumping off a parent in a brutal way, right? Well, we know that Hook isn't great to the mermaids of the lagoon, so is it possible that Captain Hook and his cronies killed Ariel's mum? Probably. This might be why Triton hates humans so much, especially humans on boats. He's always looking to end those pirates. Speaking of dead parents, let's take a look at this sunken ship at number 8. This is another Disney shared universe theory. This comes as a result of the sunken ship that we see Ariel exploring at the beginning of The Little Mermaid. It looks rather a lot like the ship the King and Queen of Arendelle sailed off on in Frozen. We know that they didn't make it back from that trip, and perhaps this ship at the bottom of the ocean is the one that they sailed in. That could be true if The Little Mermaid is still set in Denmark, like it was in the original. We suspect that the royal family of Arendelle were travelling between kingdoms in Norway to Germany, Denmark being very much en route. That doesn't to me explain why Sebastian has a Caribbean accent though. Curious. Tangled star Zachary Levi even shared another theory about who caused the storm that sank the boat in the first place. King Blooming Triton, that's who. Which leads me to my next theory. Coming in at number 7, Triton tried to kill Eric. But like, did he? It would make sense, right? We know that Triton is king of the ocean. In fact, it is heavily insinuated that he could be the son of sea god Poseidon. We know that he can get pretty angry, and he has a glowing magical trident. He forbids Ariel from going to the surface, and she does it anyway. Then, a hurricane comes and smashes Eric's ship. But could it have been Triton's doing? He would, in theory, have that kind of power as king of the ocean and possible sea god. Evidence to this theory can also be found in the scene where he destroys Ariel's grotto with magic. He is lurking in the shadows and knows that Ariel has been to the surface again and that she rescued a human from drowning. But how could he possibly know that? Well, I think he saw her there, and he saw Prince Eric. Why else would he be bothered about a sunken statue? This is what Triton has to say about humans.
I don't have to know him. They're all the same. Spineless, savage, harpooning fish eaters.
Suffice to say, he's not a fan, and this is how he treats his daughter's disobedience. I think that actually, Triton is the baddie all along. So speaking of baddies, does our number 6 theory now make a lot more sense? That's right, at number 6 we have Triton and Ursula are related. So they both have white hair and a pronounced brow. They are both very powerful and angry magic wielders. Is Ursula the sea witch Triton's sister? Some people have suggested that actually she's a jilted ex-lover of Triton's and that's why she's so jealous of Ariel, who is a legitimate child of his. As I have no idea how the whole fishtail and tentacle thing would go down, let's sideline that for the moment and think about the brother and sister angle. It seems that in the 2006 Platinum Edition DVD release of Ariel the Little Mermaid, deleted scenes suggest that this was actually an early intention for the movie, but it was never included in the narrative. It is, however, included in the Broadway show. Now I guess it makes the film a bit darker knowing that the sea witch would want to capture and manipulate the soul of her niece, doesn't it? Coming in to number 5, the ending isn't actually the ending. In the Ariel the Little Mermaid origin story by Hans Christian Andersen, the Little Mermaid is a princess who made a bargain with a sea witch in exchange for legs so she could meet a human that she rescued. Sure. The only thing is that in the origin, every time she walks using these legs she feels excruciating pain. Throughout the story her feet bleed regularly, it's pretty dark. She's told if she doesn't secure the love of the prince, she'll die. She does meet the prince who asks her to dance for him, which she does even though it's actual agony. How does he repay her? Well, he falls in love with someone else, breaking her heart. Tale as old as time. Her mermaid sisters sell their hair to the sea witch for a knife that offers the mermaid a way out. If she kills the prince and drips his blood on her leg, she can end her pain and become a mermaid again. Sadly for her, she loves him too much, and instead, as the witch promised, she simply dies. Cool, great, thanks for that, Hans Christian Andersen. Now a lot of people think that actually, this is more like the real ending of Disney's Ariel the Little Mermaid than the actual ending. They think that when Ariel jumped into the water to chase after the boat, she never made it and never stopped the wedding. Ursula married the prince as Vanessa and Ariel went mad, imagining her life and the improbable way that she could have rescued her love. She later dies of a broken heart. Some more tragedy up next, and I love this. This is some real Greek tragedy stuff right here at number 4. Ursula is the one who's cursed. There is a theory out there that says that actually Vanessa was Ursula's real form and that she is the one who's cursed. In Greek mythology there is a beautiful nymph called Scylla who is actually kind of awful. You know, like Vanessa. She taunted Circe, the daughter of the sun Helios, and out of jealousy, Circe poisoned the water that Scylla bathed in. When Scylla got into the ocean, she was changed into a monster with hideous tentacles. This monster would then sink ships and unleash her wrath in the Strait of Messina. Some people think that this story is actually Ursula's origin story, that she was a shady, sassy beauty called Vanessa, but she tricked someone, maybe Triton's wife, maybe someone else, who then decided to change her into a monster, and that is why she wants to get revenge. Coming into number 3, Ariel is an idiot. Isn't she though? Should little girls aspire to be like Ariel? For many reasons I think no, but fundamentally, Honey is an idiot. So here is how she reacts to a fork.
Gosh, have you ever seen anything so wonderful in your entire life? Wow, cool. But, what is it? I don't know.
Like, mate, doesn't your dad's trident look a lot like a big fork? I get it that you might not know that it's used to eat with, but this reaction is just too pure. Even though she's taught to eat with a fork at a banquet with Eric and other humans, she still uses it to brush her hair. Like, honey is basic. Forks aside, here's my main gripe with Ariel. She signs her name in her contract with Ursula. She writes it. She writes Ariel. Now, if Ariel could sign her name, I think that she can write. Right? If she could write, why didn't she write who she was and explain her plight to Eric after she met him on the beach? Like, honestly, think about it. There are other ways of communicating. Saying she's not resourceful is maybe a kind way of putting it, because she dumb. Coming into number 2, we have the hidden imagery. So a lot of people think that they see phallic imagery in Ariel the Little Mermaid, and honestly, I get it. A lot of people say that they can see the male reproductive organ. I'm sorry, I didn't want to get this video demonetized, and you just can't say the word I'm looking for. In the movie poster, there looks to be, you know, some imagery there. Then there's this scene at the end of the movie where the priest seems to be getting pretty excited by the marriage. This actually led to an Arkansas woman filing a lawsuit against the Walt Disney Company in 1995, although she did drop the suit 2 months later. Interestingly though, Disney did cut the third knee in the movie remastering, so was there something weird going on and inappropriate for kids? Finally, coming into number 1, Ursula's magic comes from the Lord of Light. So let's talk about this necklace that Ursula has. The necklace that she slips on allows her to transform into Vanessa. It allows some kind of air of mystery and manipulation as to her image. Now to me, this reminds me of the necklace that Melisandre wears in Game of Thrones. Melisandre is the Red Woman, the Red Witch, and a worshipper of the Lord of Light. Ursula is also a witch, and when she uses magic, it often involves a lot of light and fire, like the Red Woman's. When Melisandre takes off her necklace, she is old and haggard. When Ursula takes hers off, this goes down. Melisandre believes that she is doing good. She isn't as sassy as Ursula, but she's still pretty savage. Here's how it ended for her. They are fellow witches. Is Ursula a witch that gets her power from the Lord of Light? We do know that there are mer people in the Game of Thrones lore, so maybe.
The Peter Pan connection. This is a theory that states that Captain Hook of the Peter Pan world is actually responsible for the death of Ariel's mother. It isn't until the 2008 film The Little Mermaid: Ariel's Beginning where we heard about Ariel's mother's death. In the film, King Triton explains that her mother, Queen Athena, met her demise at the hands of horrible pirates. Definitely makes a lot more sense as to why the man is so strict about the whole human thing, but fans have spotted something in the Peter Pan movie that drives this theory home even more. In Peter Pan, we see an unnamed but red-headed mermaid, and some believe that the signature red hair just shows that she must have been Ariel's mom. This, coupled with how scared the mermaids that Peter makes friends with in Neverland are of Captain Hook, we can easily put 2 and 2 together and see that it's entirely possible that their fear stems from him having taken the life of their queen. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Siren Song. Of course, Ariel and Prince Eric have that sort of love at first sight romance that is all too common for Disney movies, but some think that there may be something sinister lurking behind this fast romance. One Little Mermaid theory suggests that Ursula wants Ariel's voice so badly because she knows it holds real magical properties. Taking it back to the legends of long ago, sirens in mythology took many forms, but in some of the later mythology, they began to sound extremely mermaid-like. One thing that didn't change about these creatures, however, is that they had these voices that drew even the best of men into their traps. Some believe that perhaps Ariel is, or at least is modeled after these creatures. This entire theory could possibly explain why Eric was so ready to marry Vanessa so soon after meeting her, because he's been bewitched by her voice. In our number 8 spot today, we have the second choice. This is a theory that really goes well with the last one. This theory, however, suggests that Ariel isn't Eric's first choice and that he is actually just settling for her. Basically, people people believe that Eric is really just looking for the woman who belongs to the voice he heard and possibly became enchanted with, should it actually hold some sort of magical abilities like we just discussed. In getting with Ariel initially, especially when we see him nearly kiss her on the lagoon, he is just kind of settling for her as a second choice, not knowing that she has the voice he's looking for. This also makes sense as to why he is so intrigued by Vanessa, because she has the voice he's been looking for and he's totally willing to ditch Ariel for it. He is continually searching for the voice he heard, but may have just been settling for Ariel as second best. In our number 7 spot today, we have Ariel's illness. This is a Little Mermaid theory that comes from the Reddit user 7th LTR, and they wrote, quote, "Ariel is a schizophrenic. The voices in her head are Flounder and Sebastian. They tell her that the world is better inside her head, under the sea. She longs to be normal, or a part of that world. Her father, Trident, is overprotective of her because of her schizophrenia. Ursula is really Ariel's doctor. She gives Ariel medicine to stop the voices in her head, gives her legs, but because she has been living in her own world, she doesn't know how to communicate with normal people. She can't talk. Eric is really a nurse that she becomes obsessed with. Ariel develops the idea that Ursula is trying to steal Eric from her when Ursula transforms herself into a beautiful woman to try and lure Eric away from Ariel. Therefore, she stops taking her medicine, so she goes back into her own world. Ariel goes back into the ocean in the movie. Eric then tells her otherwise, so she begins treatment again and learns how to live in the real world with the help of Eric. She gets her legs and her voice and she marries him and they live happily ever after. I mean, this is an absolutely wild theory, but it does have some people convinced. What do you think? In our number 6 spot today, we have washed ashore. This is another theory that was posted to Reddit and is definitely one of the creepiest on this list. Basically, this theory suggests that everything is quote-unquote normal up until Ariel meets Ursula. As we all well know, Ariel asks for legs, but Ursula says it's something she can't do. Ariel wants them so badly, so she begs and pleads for so long and so desperately that eventually Ursula gives in to give her what she wants. Ursula splits Ariel's fin in two and sends her up to the surface of the ocean. Here's where things get dark in this theory though. When I say she cuts her fin in two, I mean literally. She cuts her fin to mimic legs. After being sent up to the surface, Ariel is washed ashore, but by the time she makes it to the beach, she's already lost too much blood. As Eric walks along the beach, he finds her barely awake. At this point, in the haze of her dying state, Ariel sees Eric and thinks she has finally met her prince on land. What continues on in the movie is all made up in Ariel's mind as she passes away, but in reality, Eric just left her on the beach alone. Yeah. Definitely a pretty dark theory, that's for sure. In our number 5 spot today, we have the true form. Vanessa in The Little Mermaid is of course the dark-haired human form that Ursula takes in order to steal Prince Eric from Ariel, but some think that this disguise is revealing something more than what may meet the eye. People especially think this because, I mean, why would she create an entirely new human form and think up a new person instead of just recreating what Ariel already looks like in order to steal her man? This is why some people suspect that perhaps Vanessa is actually Ursula's true form. That Ursula is actually a mermaid, but she appears as this octopus creature because it's actually a punishment from a crime in her past. This also could explain why King Triton hates her so much, as well as why she lives as a societal outcast. Maybe she did something horrible and was banished from the kingdom and made to live life as a different creature. In our number 4 spot today, we have The Wreck. So there are of course a ton of Disney universe theories as to how different movies could be linked together. I mean, we started off with the Peter Pan connection, and I never get tired of reading all of the creative theories people have come up with or the Easter eggs people have found that prove the connections, but this is one I definitely never thought of. In The Little Mermaid, we see Ariel explore a shipwreck close to the beginning. I mean, it's one of the most iconic scenes in the movie. A giant shark appears and it threatens both Ariel and Flounder's lives. It truly was a terrifying moment for 6-year-olds everywhere, but this theory adds an eerie layer to the movie scene. Some believe that the ship in the wreck is the one that once belonged to Anna and Elsa from Frozen's parents. We now know that they unfortunately passed in the beginning of the first Frozen movie, but we don't know a lot about how, except for that it was on a ship, which has led people to this definitely compelling theory. In our number 3 spot today, we have the sister connection. Ever wondered why Ariel and her 6 sisters all look different from one another? Well, some believe that this difference in appearance points to a hidden storyline where all of the sisters actually have different mothers. Yeah, King Triton was getting pretty busy under the sea. People who believe this theory speculate that King Triton was busy with a bunch of different women in order to spread his bloodline as far as possible. Along with this theory is the suggestion that Ariel is the king's favorite, but not everyone can agree why. Some believe that she is her dad's favorite because of the fact that he and Ariel's mom are still together, but if you agree with the Captain Hook theory, we know this is untrue. That is why some people have speculated that perhaps Ariel is the favorite because her mother met such a violent and untimely death, and the king wants to protect her even further. In our number 2 spot today, we have overprotected. This theory has to do more with our favorite best buddy Flounder than it does Ariel, and it is said that this theory originated on Christine Morehouse Blogspot, where they claimed that they knew why Flounder was such a worrywart and was so caring for his friend Ariel. Basically, they suggested that he was over-nurtured as a child. Because of this caring background, he developed a certain bond with his mother, and once she left, it caused him to struggle a bit in his adult life. This over-nurturing led to him becoming fearful of his surroundings. He's overly cautious and worried about not only himself, but those that he loves. I mean, I never really thought of Flounder as potentially having had a harmful childhood, but those who speculate on these kinds of theories and such never miss anything. In our number 1 spot today, we have the stormy waters. In the beginning of the Little Mermaid movie, we see Prince Eric's royal ship run into a storm that truly almost costs him his life. It's a very stressful aspect of the movie. I mean, it's the thing that almost makes this famous love story not happen. But while this moment is already dark, some think that there might be something even more sinister going on. Some fans think that King Triton actually caused the storm on purpose. People believe that he got so fed up with Ariel visiting the surface and obsessing over humans that he wanted to do something about it and take away the temptation. So, alas, he started a storm and tried to cause a shipwreck. I mean, King Triton is harsh, but he couldn't be willing to risk all of those sailors' lives. Right? This haunting call. Whales truly are some of the coolest animals on Earth, and humpback whales are no exception. The males of the species are known for their songs, which last from 10 to 20 minutes and are actually pretty complex. They will repeat these songs for hours at a time, and it honestly isn't exactly known why they sing these songs at all. All the males in the group will produce the same song, and it will change seasonally. The females are also able to produce noise, but for some reason it is only the males who seem to produce these long songs. It is unclear how the whales even produce these sounds, however, because they don't actually have vocal cords. This is all super cool and interesting, but the whole reason you're here is for the sound, so let's take a listen to a more haunting track released by the humpback whale. Okay, so please tell me I'm not alone in thinking that that was the most beautifully haunting sound I've ever heard come from the sea. But also imagine being alone in the ocean, not knowing what that was, and then hearing it. Probably pretty terrifying, right? At least we're all safe here in YouTube land. In our number 9 spot today, we have this marine chorus. Okay, so out of context, if I played you this sound, what would you think it is? Definitely not something underwater, right? Well, as it turns out, this sound was indeed captured under the water, and these are the sounds of fish calls. While I always expected the chorus of marine animals to sound a little more similar to the stylings of Sebastian the crab, apparently that isn't even close. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even know that most fish had calls, but it turns out that our human ears just can't perceive all of the hoots, moans, barks, and chirps that take place in the vast seas. This recording actually helped scientists realize that there are fish who sing together in a chorus every day at dusk and dawn. There have now been around 800 species of fish that have been identified and confirmed to make some form of noise, and apparently some fish even engage in shouting matches in noisier parts of the ocean, which is kind of hilarious to imagine. I guess on the list of creepy noises, this one is less creepy and more just informative. In our number 8 spot today, we have the whistle. This is a sound that was first recorded in 1997 by the NOAA and was the source of many mysteries for years, while people speculated about what may have caused the sound. While it still isn't exactly clear, it is now believed that the sound may have come from an underwater volcano eruption. If you didn't know, underwater or submarine volcanoes are located in all oceans on our Earth, and they're extremely interesting. There are certain kinds of marine animals that only exist near these extreme environments. Many submarine volcanoes are located located near the areas of tectonic plate formations, which are also known as mid-ocean ridges. There's a YouTube user called Some Canadian, and they left a comment on a video of this whistle sound that pretty much sums it up exactly. First, we'll listen to the sound played at 10 times the original speed. The comment read, quote, "It could be the sound of something moving through tunnels. 1. Volcanic eruptions and gases. 2. Something big and hungry. You choose." I think they might really be onto something there. In our number 7 spot today we have bloop. Why are all of the weirdest ocean sounds first recorded in 1997? Bloop is another one that came from that year, and it was a loud and unusual sound that was placed as occurring several times off the southern coast of South America, and it was so loud that it could be heard over 5,000 kilometers away. At first, researchers were confused because, while the sound was actually similar to known sounds of living creatures, it was just way too loud that not even the blue whale, the largest living creature, could have produced it. So what is it then? Well, as it turns out, it is in fact not the Kraken, and instead it is actually consistent with ice quakes that are generated by large icebergs as they crack and fracture. It seems like this sound going with that explanation doesn't really make sense, but hey, I'm no scientist. But here's the sound for you to judge for yourself. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Western Pacific biotwang. In 2014, researchers and scientists heard weird sounds coming from the Mariana Trench, which, for the record, seems like the worst place for there to be strange noises coming from. For years, experts couldn't pin down this sound, and it was dubbed the Western Pacific biotwang, and while there is now a theory that was proposed by researchers from Oregon State University, they have also said that they might be entirely wrong. First, for reference, here's a little clip of the sound I'm talking about. Okay, so if you're like me, my mind immediately went to something alien related or some sort of creature that perhaps we haven't yet discovered. I mean, this is the Mariana Trench we're talking about. The theory put forward by the Oregon State researchers was that perhaps this may be a new type of baleen whale call. Okay, that's probably the best of all of the options, but I really don't like when someone tells me the answer to a scientific mystery only to tell me that that might not actually be the answer at all. While the low part of the sound would make sense to attribute to the baleen whale, it's the end high-pitched twangy part that would be incredibly unique. The wide range of frequencies in the sound are what continues to baffle those who are trying to find the source of this mysterious sound. In our number 5 spot today we have Julia. Julia is a sound that was recorded in 1999 by the US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, which I've already talked about today. It sounds like it could be straight out of a horror movie, so considering it was a sound that came from our ocean and at first no one could tell where it had come from, it really was quite frightening. This sound has now likely been demystified, as researchers are pretty positive they know the origin of it. It is now believed that this sound was caused by an iceberg running aground off Antarctica. The sound, however, was insanely loud. It was so loud that it could be heard over the entire equatorial Pacific Ocean autonomous hydrophone array. Researchers were later able to narrow down what they believe may have been the point where the sound originated, although they've never actually been able to pinpoint it exactly. Most of the time when people hear the Julia sound, they hear it sped up at 16 times the original speed, but today we are going to listen to a clip of the sound at regular speed because I think it is much more eerie this way. In our number 4 spot today we have knock. Okay, this is one that I'll admit was not captured by a submarine, but it was still underwater and it truly is terrifying. A few years ago, a beluga whale named Knock, who was unfortunately in captivity, was recorded as he swam below the water. Beluga whales have been called the canaries of the sea, and for good reason, but Knock really wanted to up the ante and instead blessed us all with this sound. Knock had this uncanny ability to mimic the rhythm and tone of human voices, and it truly is kind of frightening. It of course is also a little sad, as part of this was probably because he spent most of his life being forced to listen to humans speak because he was being held in captivity. Before this recording of Knock, the voices of belugas and their sometimes human-like sounds have been talked about, but Knock was the first time it was recorded, and honestly, I kind of wish it hadn't been. In our number 3 spot today we have the bioduck. Since the 1960s, this sound has absolutely stumped researchers who heard it. This sound was basically what the name attributed to it would suggest. It sounded like some sort of mechanical duck. For decades, researchers would hear this sound and it would often be heard and recorded again in the spring and winters. After all of these years though, it seems as though the answers to this mysterious sound are finally coming to light. In 2013, researchers attached sensors that collect acoustic data to 2 whales. One of those tags recorded for 18 hours and the other for 8, and the whales they were attached to were traveling with other whales in groups of 5 to 40, and they were all eating basically the entire time. Throughout this time, with the tags on the whales, there were a total of 32 calls heard, and this data is what led researchers to finally understand where the bioduck sound was coming from. As it turns out, this mysterious sound was actually the call of the minke whale. Researchers still aren't exactly clear as to what the call means to the whales, but it was a fantastic discovery that finally closed an almost 50-year-old scientific mystery. In our number 2 spot today we have upsweep. We all know how little we know about the ocean, and that also includes what kind of creatures lie in it. So while this mysterious sound out of context probably wouldn't be that freaky, when put into this situation it becomes quite a bit more eerie. This sound is referred to as upsweep, and it was caught when the Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory started its sound surveillance system in August of 1991. The sound is apparently more seasonal, with its peaks in spring and fall, but it is unclear if the changing of seasons is responsible for this sound, or if it's coming from something that lurks in the ocean and remains undiscovered. Just for reference, here's a clip of that sound played at 20 times the original speed. It is possible that this sound could be coming from underwater volcanic activity, but it is also possible that it's not, so who really knows? In our number 1 spot today we have an earthquake. Okay, so to add another creepy Mariana Trench sound to this list, we have one that was taken from the bottom of the Challenger Deep. In fact, it was the first ever sound recording to be taken from the bottom of the Challenger Deep, so it's a pretty cool scientific advancement as well as a terrifying sound. Despite the crushing pressures and the fact that there's no sunlight, the Challenger Deep is actually pretty noisy, and that is because of the fact that sound travels a really long way underwater, which ends up kind of turning the Challenger Deep into a sort of echo chamber of oceanic sounds. So while the recording was able to pick up things like the sound of a boat almost 11 kilometers overhead and the sounds of whale calls, they were also able to pick up the sound of a magnitude 5 earthquake rumbling near Guam on July 16th, 2015. I'm not gonna lie, while being one of the scariest things I've ever heard, this is also one of the coolest things I've ever heard in my life too. Science really is just so cool sometimes.
Sirens. So there is a creepy legend out there that sirens live in or around the Bermuda Triangle, and that they are to blame for all the disappearances of the sailors and ships and stuff. They attract sailors in with their beautiful voices and enchanting music. Next thing you know, they're sailing right into the rocks and to their death. In fact, it's said that they can even charm the winds, meaning they can make the water more turbulent for sailors or windier for pilots. So maybe there are sirens lurking in the Bermuda Triangle. Who knows? In our 9th spot today we have pyrozones. Now these things are pretty interesting. I mean, just take a look at them and the shape of them. It looks like something pretty questionable. Anyways, these are free-floating colonial tunicates. They usually live in the upper layers of the open ocean in warm sea, but they have been found deeper down as well. Now, what is a tunicate, you ask? Because I certainly didn't know until today's video. Well, they are these small marine invertebrate animals. So a bunch of these cluster together and form this cone-shaped colony. The colonies can be up to 18 meters, which is 60 feet long. In that case, there would be hundreds of thousands of these dudes in there, because individually they are less than 1 centimeter. Other names that they go by are sea pickles, sea worms, sea squirts, fire bodies, and cockroaches of the sea. Moving on to number 8, we have the mermaids. Obviously sirens and mermaids are pretty similar, just like one harms you and the other don't want to be discovered and hopefully don't harm you. It's believed that beneath the waters in the Bermuda Triangle are a number of mermaids swimming about. In fact, over the years, a number of sailors have claimed to see faces of humans underwater. Legend goes that these are the faces of sailors that got pushed overboard and drowned. But what if they're not ghostly sailors and they're actually mermaids? Not only that, but we still have so much more of the ocean to explore and map out. Who knows what really lurks down in the ocean? Maybe mermaids are real. In our 7th spot today, we have the Kraken. Now, there are a number of people that believe that the legendary Kraken isn't so legendary, and maybe that's another reason as to why ships and airplanes go missing and that there's no wreckage ever found. It's because the Kraken swallows them whole, so there's no wreckage left over. For the planes, the Kraken is said to be big enough to snatch a plane right out of the sky. Might sound hard to believe, but people are working to prove this theory, and if they go missing, I bet they fell victim to the Kraken as well. In our 6th spot, we have the marine hatchetfish. Now, these dudes are pretty creepy looking. They constantly have this expression plastered on their face as if they just seen a ghost. They got massive foggy grayish eyes and a gaping mouth. Like, they look scary, but then they also look like they're scared. I don't know. Anyways, these dudes are tiny. They range from 2.8 centimeters to 12 centimeters depending on the species. It gets its name because its body is kinda shaped like a hatchet. They have the ability to look directly up with their eyes to see above them and grab prey floating down. Not only that, but their eyes have become sensitive to light, so they're really good at spotting prey. It can pick out camouflage prey swimming in the murky light above with ease. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the anglerfish. Now, anglerfish are undeniably creepy. In fact, they are considered one of the scariest sea creatures on Earth. And I know why. Just take a look at its terrifying mouth lined with spiky teeth. Now, if you've seen Finding Nemo, then you remember this guy with that little ball of light that dangles down from its head while it hides out in the darkness. And then when fish are drawn to it, like Marlin and Dory, it comes out of nowhere and just snatches them and eats them. But obviously Finding Nemo is a Disney movie, so they didn't kill off the 2 main characters. So what else is creepy about this fish is that their mouth is so wide that it extends all over the entire circumference of its head. These creatures are also covered in what looks like hair all over their body, but these are actually used to sense what's around them. I don't know, they're just creepy, no thank you. Plus they can swallow fish that are almost twice their size. Moving on to number 4, we have the lionfish. Now, these fish are pretty beautiful. They're covered in bright colors and stripes, but they are full of venomous spines. Getting pierced by one is excruciating, but death is very, very rare, but it can still happen. They have 18 venomous spines that can pierce right through our skin. 13 of those spines are located along the spine of the dorsal fins. There is 1 on each of the pelvic fins and 3 short spines on its backside by its booty. As for the size of these bad boys, well, an adult lionfish can grow as large as 18 inches, which is pretty big, whereas the young might only be like 1 inch or less. Moving on to number 3, we have the blanket octopus, which is a pretty interesting name for an octopus if you ask me. But it gets its name because the females have a long, like fleshy cape thing that's around its tentacles. This cape makes the octopus appear larger and more intimidating to potential predators. But fun fact, the females can weigh up to 40,000 times more than their partners. As for size, although pictures make them look big, they're kinda small. The females grow 2 meters in length. The males, on the other hand, are 2.4 centimeters. Yes, 2.4 centimeters. So they are tiny. They're like bam, okay? Don't ask me how they mate. I have no clue. That size difference is insane. In fact, the blanket octopus or octopi have the largest gender size discrepancy in the animal kingdom. Coming in at number 2, we have the fluke fish, aka the summer flounder. Now, this is one of the most oddly shaped fish I have ever seen. They're super flat, but have big round bodies lined with like fins. The weirdest part though has to be its eyes. They have both eyes on the same side of their face instead of one on each side. So it like looks side profile all the time. It's pretty weird. Now they're also called chameleons of the sea because they can camouflage to the bottom of the ocean with ease. In fact, they can change their color and texture to match their surroundings. Isn't that cool? I think so. Now they can grow anywhere from 8.7 to 23.6 inches, which is 22 to 60 centimeters in length, with their average size being around 15 inches, which is 38 centimeters. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the giant isopods. Now, these things are like giant underwater cockroaches. I kid you not. And they are found in the cold, deep waters of the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Ocean. However, although it looks like a bug, it is not. They are closely related to marine crustaceans like shrimp and crabs. As their name suggests, they are giant. They are typically between 7.5 to 14.2 inches in length, but can grow even bigger. One of the biggest ones discovered was 2.5 feet long. It was discovered in 2010. Scientists still are trying to figure out why they grow so big. They think maybe it's to help them survive the extreme pressure of the deep ocean, but who really knows? What is also creepy is that they're carnivores, okay? They feast on dead animals that fall from above, and probably dead divers too.
If you enjoyed these mermaid encounters, then you have to check out this video next. It's about alien encounters that NASA tried to hide. Click the video now to find out more. See you in the next video.